Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence with Just Ask. Today our show is Spinal Cord Research. Hurry back and join us. Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence with Just Ask. Today our show is Spinal Cord Research, and our guest is Dr. Kathy Lysek and a research assistant, Marie Komanecki. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Marie. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
All right. Now, you know, normally we do provide information throughout the community about what goes on and how people should get in contact with one another to find out about services available. But this show is research. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Dr. Lysek, or can I call you Kathy?
Yes, please.
Okay, okay. Tell us about your role and what's this all about.
Yes, I'm the principal investigator on a relatively new study focused on community participation after spinal cord injury. The project is a 3-year project, and it's hosted at Wayne State, where I work. But it's funded by the U.S. Department of Education through their National Institute on Disability and Rehabilitation Research. So we feel really quite privileged to be able to focus time and resources on understanding how people return to a meaningful life after what, for most of us, is thought to be a pretty significant injury.
Okay, that's a lot. Okay, now, Marie, what do you do?
Well, I actually do sort of some of the legwork for the project. I go out and I actually talk to people with spinal cord injury who respond to our advertisements for the project.
Okay, so that's what makes you a research assistant. You go out to, like, you're doing the research to find the people.
Right, and then I go out and I actually collect the data, so to speak, and bring it back.
Okay. Now, when you find a person, or you say you go out and find people, do people generally come to you, or how do you get your data to find out where persons with spinal cord injuries are?
Right. In this particular project, we're using community-based recruitment, and the people that we want to interview are people who are past their primary rehabilitation phase. So they're not in the hospital any longer. They've gone home, and the focus of our study is essentially on how they make those reconnections to people and places that they want to be a part of, even though they're now sitting in a wheelchair and are challenged, of course, by all the everyday things that include barriers to getting in and out of buildings, for example, or not being able to drive, and all of the things that prevent you from going the places that you want to go.
So mainly, why did you focus in on this group?
Why spinal cord injury? Several reasons. Obviously, this is a serious, permanent, and very visible disability. You know when someone's had a spinal cord injury, you can see it. And for people who are living their life from a wheelchair, the personal experience that they have as they, try to get back to that active life that they want, there can be negative attitudes. There can be a lot of public hesitation, even discrimination, regarding their right or their desire to get in a building or join a club or go back to school, or even return to the workplace. So because it's such a significant injury and it's so lifelong and it's costly, if we can learn more about how to facilitate people's return to an active life, school, work, we think this is a positive contribution. That's
a wonderful thing. Now, how does one more so, or do you have a list of how people acquire spinal cord injuries?
Oh, good question. It is still the case, nationally speaking, that auto accidents are the #1 cause of spinal cord injury.
One? Okay.
It's #1. Okay. Motorcycle accidents, diving and swimming, sporting accidents. One of the individuals that I interviewed probably about a month and a half ago now. He actually was a downhill skier, and that's how he sustained his injury. It's surprising, though. You know, people tend to expect this is a young man's injury, or it's even a violence-related injury, accident and violence, or risk-taking behavior. But we actually have several older women in this study who've sustained their spinal cord injury through a fall. So it's something we don't think about as much, but an older adult can also be in a car accident, and for some older adults who are frail, an actual fall can leave them paralyzed as well.
Now, do you think, or do you know from your study so far, that the mental outcome of a patient, according to how they sustain their injury, are they adjustable to it because, well, that's just the way it is, or it was a freak accident, such as a swimmer? I mean, to dive into a pool, you know, head first or something like that, or a daredevil that wants to leap over buildings on a motorcycle and stuff. Are they the kind of clients that just set into the reality that this is my fault or something of that nature?
You know, there's not one pattern. You know, the response and coping with the injury is actually quite diverse. For some of those individuals who had this very active athletic life, that doesn't actually stop. It may stop temporarily through the rehab phase, but there are a number of individuals who return to a very active physical life afterwards. For some, and not many, it remains just a very challenging thing, and they don't want to be the athlete they were before. They might change their life quite considerably, but there's great variation. I think there's a tendency too for the public to think, oh, you know, my life is over. You know, if I was ever in a wheelchair, I wouldn't even want to live. But definitely, that is not what we're finding at all. You know,
so what are some of the myths and misconceptions that people get about spinal cord injury?
We were talking about this a little bit just before the show, and Marie was mentioning, you know, an experience she had with one individual that she was interviewing, who was sort of talking about the presumption that society has that just because your body is broken, your brain is broken too. If you want to say a bit about that situation.
That's actually, if there's been any consistency in the interviews that I've done so far, that would be it. That people are often perceived as being incapable of answering questions for themselves, ordering their own dinner at restaurants. If they're out with people, the waitress more often than not will turn and, what does he want? What does she want? And
so people without this particular condition always seem to warrant that that person with the condition is helpless.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's, you know, that same rule applies to profoundly deafness. I had experience not too long ago where I was in the office with a friend of mine, and a person came in, a lady came in and needed some assistance, and the secretary was so afraid because she didn't know how to sign that they asked me, because I'm a hearing impaired person, could I communicate with her? And I said, no. And I basically said, no. I said, I will. I said, but let me say this to you. I said, just write down what you want her to know. I said, she knows you're hearing, and so if she knows you're hearing, she knows she has to write to you unless you can tell her that you can sign. So actually, I communicated with the lady, but I felt as though if you don't tell a person, just calm down and take one, step at a time and getting your information out, then you'll always have the stigma about what people can't do. So I don't know if spinal cord and hearing impairment or profoundly deafness, is in the same arena, but still people have this assumption that, well, they can't hear, or they can't see, or they can't walk, so they're helpless and they're always going to need something, or everything that they touch has to be helped with, or everything they do, someone has to help them. And I kind of find that kind of, I don't know if the word is rude, or I'll say ignorant on the public's part, and the word might seem harsh to say ignorant, but I think the ignorance comes from you're not willing to learn. You're not willing to take the time out and get to understand.
And just recognize too that, I mean, we're all people with a variety of strengths and limitations, and all of us at some point or another are going to face some type of mobility loss or confront a health problem or a disability. We all hope it's not for a long time and that we get better, But it's not that different.
Right, and I always tell people, you know, this is one type of club you don't want to join. You know, you're going to get in it one way. You might not want to, but this is the kind of club. People always talk about organizations being involved in this and that. Well, when you become a person with a disability of any sort, that's almost like a club, because then you have to learn from the others what to do and what not to do, or what's helpful out there in the community. And, you know, I always tell people, welcome to the club. You know, so, well, Kathy Marie, we're going to take a commercial break and come back with some more really good stuff.
These kids are in trouble. They have a problem learning, and their parents are waiting too long before getting them help. Don't wait. The sooner you get help, the better the chance your kid has.
Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence. Welcome back to the show, and we have the spinal cord research segment of our show with Dr. Kathy Lysek and Marie Komenek. Okay. Now, ladies, we left off with some good information, and it appears that the public is probably going to pay attention to this, because there's a lot of people with spinal cord injuries that really just want to be heard, you know, and I know you're going to get some feedback from this. Tell us a little bit about the research when you actually gather the people, or how do you go about it?
Right, that's a very good question.
Okay.
After somebody sees one of our flyers, or this show, hopefully, give us a call at 313-577-3591, and we'll give you more information about the project. But then, hopefully, we'll set up an interview, and the interview lasts about 2 hours, and it's a one-time interview, and we will go out to people's homes. So transportation is not an issue, because so often it is. Or another convenient location. We'll work something out, and we'll just basically chat for 2 hours, ask people questions about what they like to do and what some of the problems they've had in doing those things.
Okay. Now, how many people do you normally need for this type of study?
We're funded in this project to interview 72 adults with spinal cord injury who are also wheelchair users. And I would stress too, there's a small portion of people with spinal cord injury who are actually able to walk, sometimes just short distances with crutches or braces. It's not a large number, but if any of those individuals are watching, we're very interested to hear from them about their experiences as well. But in this study, we're funded to interview 72 people, African American and white, from the ages of 18 right through to 75 years of age.
Okay.
Anyone who has an injury from a traumatic cause. Some people have an injury due to cancer or a problem with their spine, but we're interested in those sudden event categories of spinal cord injury.
Okay, and so it's a 2 hour study.
Two hour interview, although I must say several individuals that we've interviewed have said, you know, let the clock run, put in another cassette tape, because I want to tell you more about my experiences, particularly people who have lived with the injury a long time. If you're younger and it's a couple of years since injury, you're still in that phase of wondering how you're going to get back to doing the things you care about. But someone who maybe has been in a chair for 10, 15 years, I'm thinking of, there's a real estate developer in downtown Detroit who is in a chair, and he had to just schedule this in a very tight, narrow window, because he's got to go back to work and sell some condos, and so we're talking to just a wide range of people.
Okay. Now, do you find that when you talk to an individual in reference to research, that they're really open and they can't wait to tell their story, or, you know, it's like lifting an albatross from around their neck?
You know, again, it depends. Some people in the study want to tell us their story for different reasons. Some individuals want to be very sure that what we tell them will be able to help other people, and I would say that's very true for most people. But they really want to know how this can change rehabilitation, how this could change a store owner or a gym that doesn't make things very accessible. So we need to do our part too, to make sure we can advocate and get their story out.
Well, what about the fact that because you are individuals that do not have
an injury
or a disability, how does that go? I mean, you know, I'm inclined to say, well, if you're going to talk about me and what I do and how I live, shouldn't you be like me or similar? So do you get that from anyone?
Well, this might be an opportune time to tell you, too, that the third member of our research team, Tara Gigi, herself has a spinal cord injury. She's not able to make it here today because she's got a special outing with her husband and son.
Okay.
And that's an important factor. It is, because if you've experienced something like this yourself, you have great insight into the challenges.
People like to relate. You know, it's unfortunately, that's why I say welcome to the club. We have so many, you know, loopholes or cliches about, you know, being involved in something that we feel like we should all be about the same in order to be involved, or we don't want to be there, you know, or how are you going to be president over something, you know, like the College for the Deaf, Gannett University. It was no way they would have a president that wasn't deaf. Or couldn't sign. So I can understand the whole rally point. You know, I mean, I'm here in Michigan, I'm thinking, what's wrong with you people? Why would you do that? And luckily it turned out in their favor. But it would only prove a point that if you're trying to get people to feel comfortable about themselves or to open up about themselves, then we want to relate to someone similar to us. As well as have the community or society recognize that we are just as active as another person with, you know, with or without the disability, and that's important. You know, it's important to get that. So what do you think is some of the ways that we can educate the public to, you know, lighten the pressures of being afraid to ask questions or to be involved?
You know, that's an excellent question. I think most of the people that we're interviewing just keep reminding us that they just want to be treated like anyone else. And that makes a lot of sense. I think the public has a discomfort, I think, in knowing what the right thing to do is. You know, the public, whether that's a store or, you know, a stranger on the street, you know, if you see someone who has a disability and looks like they might benefit from some assistance, I think there's some tension. You know, the person is thinking, should I offer some assistance? Oh, maybe that would be misunderstood. Maybe I should let them claim their own independence and act accordingly. So I think the public should know that people with disabilities get married, have kids, want to go to school, want to go on vacation, want to watch their favorite football team on the weekend, and we might have to reconstruct the environment in some ways, and sometimes our social attitude some ways. But really, it's not any different than you and I.
And I second that. My motto is, and I always say this, if a CEO is a CEO on Monday and he or she sustains an injury on Sunday and becomes paralyzed, aren't they still a CEO? Okay, so I believe that, you know, it doesn't change the career, it doesn't change the person. It's society that, you know, honors the change. Society should be making the change to allow that person to be who they are and what they are, you know, not, oh my God, you know, because anyone that's in the business, especially if you're in your own business or if you're president or something, you do not take the hat off. You know, the hat might be tilted a little bit, but you don't take the hat off. You still continue to be and do what it is that you were doing. So I kind of wonder, how do we come to a conclusion that whenever a person becomes disabled, that's it? You know, they no longer have the business. They no longer are recognized as this important figure. They, you know, step down, whatever, pass the baton. That is not necessarily, you know, true or so.
Yeah, absolutely true. My background in rehabilitation as a therapist who's worked in a hospital, you know, for many, many years, and it's still the case. You know, the successful case after rehabilitation, you know, we have all these tools that measure successful community participation, but all of that is, are you working full-time? How much money do you make? Do you get out of your house often enough? It's moving your body and how many times do you do things, but we know that's not the personal way that we measure a valuable life. There are many, many, many different ways that people participate and feel a part of something, and we need to do a better job in capturing what matters to people. So I think there's great promise in this research to improve the kinds of assessment tools that we use to say we've succeeded in rehabilitation, because it's not just the body, as you've mentioned, it's the person.
Right. Well, I couldn't have said that better, Kathy. Okay. Well, ladies, we're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Am I going to get in trouble?
No, you're not going to get in trouble.
I can't go to school if I'm sick.
Just go to school so you can get some lunch. Then you can come home afterwards.
Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence, and welcome back to our show. And we're talking about spinal cord research. Okay. Now, ladies, we've had the opportunity recently to be at an event with Christopher Reeves at the Heidi Van Arm Raise for a Cure Foundation, or Raise for a Cure Ball. And it was really interesting. I believe that a lot of people, you know, Christopher Reeves was recognized as Superman, and now, you know, he's still being recognized as Superman in the sense that he's become very knowledgeable and educated in the field of spinal cord injury. But my concern was that if somebody asked him who did he look up to, or who did he think, you know, was
like a role model
or something, and luckily enough, I could have just, you know, patted him on the back and said that was a good choice of words. The researchers. He said the researchers. He said the scientists and the researchers, which was very touching, because some people might well said he would thought he probably said his family. Some people might well thought he would say God, you know, which you know, he comes first of all over everything, but the way he put it, the order that he put it in. But he said the researchers, because he knows as well as any of the rest of us that it takes people of science and knowledge to come together to either make something better or tell us how, you know, things are going to come out, the outlook of stuff. But he was very informative.
I would say if you ask the researchers that question, they might respond with Christopher Reeve as being such a tremendous asset and benefit too. You know, it's an interesting question, because I think someone who's a celebrity with disability brings a heightened public attention and also sort of government and social and public attention, which in turn can be increased resources for research. The kinds of research that we're focused on here is definitely not of the medical and neurological type, but I would say that's extremely important. The majority of funds in SCI research are spent in medical cure kinds of research, and that's wonderful. I hope we get there. Many people with disabilities hope we get there. We would just say that in the meantime, we need to make sure that people with this disability have an opportunity to achieve the goals that they have for themselves.
And to do with this research information after you gather it?
Keep it all to ourselves.
Okay. The world's going to know about that now.
We want to get it out there in as many ways as we possibly can. I teach at Wayne State in the occupational therapy program, and in one small way, what we're learning from the research gets transferred back into the teaching environment, and that's local. On the national scale, though, we have an obligation to publish in the premier journals in rehabilitation, which we'll do. We'll also attend conferences, and those conferences will talk about the results. We also have been doing interviews and opportunities like we're doing today locally to get the word out to the public in a more general way, because they don't open up the scientific journals unless they're really interested and it's personal for them. But we want to utilize all of these different opportunities to get the word out.
Well, when you contact us and told me that you had the opportunity to interview our good friend Christopher Grobo, I was like, you know, be more than welcome to help you out. He's a good guy, you know, and we met Christopher quite a few years ago. And the gym that he has, Total Fitness Forum, that's nice. That's a nice gym. I mean, this gym is designed for persons with disability as well as without, and a lot of stuff should be taking place like that. You know, the what ifs. You know, every doorway should be widened by now in case. What if, you know, and believe you me, people with disabilities have money too. They have incomes, you know, whether it's, you know, permanently disabled income, or if it's some money that the family left or whatever, or a lawsuit, but it's still money, you know, so they should be able to go wherever and whenever.
I'm so pleased you mentioned that, because the modifications and technology that are now available to modify homes, modify workplaces is really quite tremendous. Now, of course, not everyone has those resources, but they do exist, and they can make the accessibility of your environment much easier, which allows the activities and relationships that you want to have thrive as well.
Okay. So, Marie, can you take me through the steps right quick on what's involved when you get a volunteer, or how do you, go through that?
Well, they phone in, and we tell them a little bit more about the study, make sure understand what's going on. And then we have a screening portion, which we do over the phone, just to make sure that people are eligible and sort of fit our minimal criteria. And then we schedule an interview, and it's usually me who will go out and interview these people. And like I said, we chat for a couple hours, and then once we're finished, we reimburse these individuals $30 for their participation. It's not very much, but something to say thank you at least.
Okay. Now, so I take it that you're not ever shocked or in awe when you see a person with a spinal cord injury?
Not anymore.
Okay. I kind of wondered about that. Okay, she was honest, people. She was honest. Okay. A lot of people are going to say, no way she's going to sit there and say, something doesn't rattle her cage. But, so you're comfortable with it? I
am now. I have to admit, when I first started on the project, I hadn't, I don't have a therapy background. I wasn't hanging out in the hospitals, and I don't know anybody personally. So it was all brand new to me. But I've had, I mean, just in talking to so many different types of people, it's opened my eyes a lot.
Enough information, you can write a book. Okay. Well, that's good that you know. So now we can say that you're so comfortable with the person with the disability that it doesn't move you to say, because some people, what I find is a problem, and I take this all the way back to the beginning. I always tell people where we need to start from is children. We need to start with our preschoolers and kindergarten children and educating them first. Because if a parent tells a child, no, don't look at her, or no, don't ask a question, or that's not right, honey, that's bad, then they grow up with the misconception all the rest of their lives that they cannot and should not ask questions about a person with a disability, or it's wrong. If we educate our small children to actually play with other children with disabilities, they become caregivers in their own right. They'll recognize that there's something slightly different about this person. However, it's still my playmate. Okay. Then the parents can also intervene in getting to know the other parents and warm up to the fact that, okay, you have a special need child, but this child has a warm and loving home and is friendly, and you can play and you can do this. So somewhere along the line, I think we should go back, with our children and come forward, because parents are the key to what the decisions the children will make what if they're going to play or if they're going to communicate or anything.
I think we owe some thanks to the teachers these days too, and the whole school system that has opened up opportunities for children in wheelchairs or children with other disabilities, and particularly if there's ways to facilitate participation in crafts or playing outside together as a group, it's just normal. There's so many things that are normal if you've done them since being a kid, and they're strange for us. All the usual things like seat belts. We didn't have seat belts or helmets on our heads when we rode bikes as kids. You look down the street, it's all changed, and for those kids, that's normal. So if integration of people with disabilities in our communities can be a part of everyday life, then I think we'll be a better society for it.
Well, I think you ladies did a wonderful job, and you're so comfortable. I'm sure you're going to get some responses without a doubt, and we hope to be able to support you in that effort. So,
Thank you.
Give out that number again.
313-577-3591.
Okay, and ladies and gentlemen, nice Marie here will answer the phone.
That's me.
Okay, we do have a flyer of yours, which is community participation after spinal cord injury, ages 18 to 75, spinal cord injuries, and using a wheelchair.
Yes.
Okay, that's the requirements.
That's right.
Okay, so if they call this number and they have 2 hours to spare, and go over some information with you, you guys would be glad to give them a stipend for their time.
Absolutely.
Okay, I bet you get some phone calls. Okay.
We hope so. We're hoping.
Okay. And you know what? I just wanted to mention briefly the book that you brought here with you today, John Hockenberry. I've actually watched this gentleman. Is it Dateline?
I think he is on Dateline now.
Dateline, and to see a person in the wheelchair on national television is a wonderful thing to me. I just sit up when I see him. I'm like, there he is. Okay, so and he covers good stories. We really, if you notice, television doesn't horn in on him being in a wheelchair.
He's a person
Right,
first.
the man's just doing his job.
Exactly.
Okay? Well, Kathy and Marie, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Keep
Thanks
us
for having
posted
us.
on what happens and let us know.
We
how it's
will.
turning out, okay? And come back again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we're doing a lot of different things this year, so we want to be a part of the community as much as possible. If you know of some services that need to be talked about, please do so. Contact us at our phone number, 248-988-0250, or check out our web, justastalkshow.org. Drop us a line. And don't forget to check out the web or call us and get some information on our Magic Makeover that we're doing this season. So if anyone wants to contact any of our past guests, give us a call or check out the web. Either way it goes. We look forward to hearing from you, and we thank you so much for tuning in to us weekly like you do. So hopefully Kathy and Marie will get some feedback on spinal cord injury, because I know you're out there, people. We want to hear your story. I'm your host, Marsha Florence, for Just Ask, and what do I always say? If you know someone with a disability, don't be afraid to ask, just ask. And don't forget, if you just have a general question, you can ask that too. I'm your host, Marsha Florence. Thank you. Okay, so did you feel like you were welcome? Did
That
you
was
feel like
great.
Okay, hold up.